Welcome to Regis World Literature. This is Lesson 21 on the Count of Monte Cristo. Basically, I'm just going to go through some of the facts related to the three key families here and making sure that you've got the relationships down and some of the broad details of their lives and how this is going to affect the way the Count takes his revenge on each of them. So we'll begin with Fernand. So Fernand Montego, he changes his name to Cerf. His wife, of course, is Mercedes. He has loved her since a very young man and was very jealous of Edmond because of that. He joined the military right about the time, a little bit after Edmond got arrested, and he was after a career in the military that also took him, I should put in there, eventually to serve in Greece in the military, the Ali Pasha. And he comes home with great wealth, and nobody really understands where he got his money. But he is quite respected, he's been decorated, and then goes into politics and is still a very respected, important man in France. His son is Albert. There seems to be quite a hard to know, I would say, coolness in his relationship with his wife, though not a lot revealed about that. At least I think at the point of the story we're stopping our discussion, which is about just right before the Haiti story. I know I'm not pronouncing that the way we do here, but that's all right. Okay, and then the son, Albert, is also engaged to Eugenie Danglars, and this is a marriage of convenience. Neither one of the young people really has any strong feelings about this at all as far as any desire for it. It's for wealth and importance by marrying, so to speak, the two families, okay, together. Now, the next guy we want to talk about is Villefort. Okay, the next family, see, these are some of the details. He's, of course, involved in law. He was the one that condemned Edmond to the Chateau d'If, and he's very absorbed in his self-importance, and he's concerned about his reputation. His wife, this I believe is his second wife, Heloise. Pretty sure that's true. I'm a little unclear on the details, but I think that's right. And she was a very wealthy widow in her own right, but cares a lot about money and about the securing the future of her son, Edward. She very much dotes on this, spoils this young man, Edward, and is very concerned that he's not being promised the entire legacy or inheritance, because a much larger portion will go to Valentine from her maternal, so that would have been the first wife, her maternal grandparents and family, which was that Saint Maron family. And so Valentine seems to be a very noble young lady. She's not all absorbed in the importance of wealth and society. She's dotes on her grandfather, Noirtier, and is his special friend and companion, and he communicates deeply, and there's quite a strong affection there between those two. And of course, Noirtier is paralyzed and can only communicate with his eyes. I think you're well aware of that part of the story. Now, do remember that she also is engaged. She is engaged to Franz d'Epinay, and she has no interest in Franz. He doesn't seem to be an ignoble young man, and he's willing to do the marriage, but again, there's not a lot of deep affection. However, on the side, she does have deep affection and loves Maximilian Morel, and even for that purpose, as well as her relationship with her grandfather, we are predisposed to think of her probably her and Maximilian as the two younger generation that we're most impressed with. Excuse me. Now, we know that she does not want the marriage to go through with Franz, but her father does, because again, this idea of marrying wealthy families and uniting them together, and he sees no reason not to have this arranged marriage. But grandfather says no. Okay, and he eventually is able to stop it. Why? By confessing really the great secret, and that is that he was the one who had killed Franz's father, the general, in a duel. So he is able to call off the marriage right at the last moment by producing the document that confesses this. Now, do know this story. Understand more of the details of what happened there. Now we'll move on to the next guy, and that would be Danglars. Danglars was the purser aboard the ship right at the beginning. He's gone into banking and investments, and this is how he makes his money. He prides himself as being a very wealthy, a successful banker, and this is what Edmond uses to get at him by opening up an unlimited line of credit. Now, you all realize that at a bank, when people invest their money in a bank, not all that money just sits in the vault in the bank. The bank makes its money by investing other people's money. And so, it banks on the idea, no pun intended, it counts on the idea that not everybody would want their money at the same time. So it may be, say 10% or 20% in the bank, and the rest is invested out. So if everybody comes and tries to get their money, especially large amounts of money, out at the same time, it will cause the banker to default. Okay, the bank to default. Now that is the scheme that Edmond is using with him. He opens up an unlimited line of credit, and then he also gets Danglars to support the Cavalcantis of Italy, creating some mystique about them, not really being doing it more by implication than making any downright lies. But what is he doing? He's getting Danglars to be comfortable with the idea of giving them also a great line of credit. And he's also manipulating telegraph communications, which he is easily able to do because of his wife's speculations and how she has been kind of manipulating her husband in her own right over many years, especially using flirtations with young men, and the current one is Debray. So that's how he fits in, because he's one more thing that is allowing that the Count is manipulating to cause Danglars to be destroyed financially. Okay, their daughter is Eugenie, and she is, as we said above, engaged to Albert. Neither one of them have much desire for this relationship, and Andreas Cavalcanti is the young man, the son, come to quote-unquote be on the scout for a French wife, and he starts entering into the picture and starts flirting with Eugenie, and you don't get the idea she's that much interested in him either. But the interesting thing about that is that Albert responds very coolly to that whole thing, and Danglars is in favor of breaking off the engagement with Albert in order to encourage this new one. Why? Because he's even rumored to be much wealthier, much more important family that goes back centuries, and he is all about increasing his wealth and importance, as we could be said for all three of these men. Okay. So it, however, pricks his pride that Albert seems not to care at all. Okay, so these are some of the key relationships that I want you to understand, and I'll be focusing on this in the quiz this week. Who is who with regard to all this. Now, there was one perhaps thing I needed to mention back on the previous page. If we look at Viafort family, and that is this idea that poison is beginning to be something that hovers around this family, again, depending on where you are in the book. Okay, but what do we have? We have Valentine's maternal grandfather, and then dies suddenly, and then the grandmother comes to the home and appears to die suddenly of poison. And then there's, that might be a spoiler alert for some of you. I guess I won't go saying any more about that yet. All right, make sure you come to class with all the names and relationships well cemented in your mind.